Hey, this is going to be a little different of a video today because I realized that I had made a different video about just some gameplay, and in the title it said level 7 treasure, and it looked like a lot of people were clicking on that looking to get some more information about the level 7 treasures because they're not displayed if you just go to the collection list of treasures, and not a lot of people see them. They're a little bit harder to get, so I wanted to just make a brief overview of what the level 7 treasure is all about. And this is a text post. I'll put a link in the description. I just wanted to make it a little more clear so people don't have to dig through some of the videos to find it. So as of now, I believe there are 5 level 7 treasures. The way to get them, it's a little bit confusing, for most people because the characters go up to 6 and you think, how do I get a level 7? But Horde Dragon allows you to get a treasure 1 level higher. Runestone does the same thing. Treasure Map says your next treasure will be 2 levels higher. So, if you Horde Dragon, or you have a Runestones on a different character, and you get a level 6 treasure, it actually gives you an option of a level 7. There are no level 8s, as far as I know, or any higher. And these, that's the way you get it. You can, and I've had, I believe this happen, if you get a level 4 treasure, but you have a Horde Dragon and a treasure map, it's additive, so you'll actually get a level 7 out of that. So I believe that's the lowest you can go because I don't believe it's possible to have runestones and treasure map at the same time. I don't think so. Because I believe if you had one, it would be used up to get the other one at any point. So that's the way you get them. You get a level 6 treasure or even below that while having one of these 3 abilities. Treasure map, runestones, Horde Dragon. Horde Dragon's the easiest way, of course, because it's a hero ability, and you can get it. You can actually switch into Horde Dragon in the late game using something like the It Was All a Dream spell, and then have, when you're buying level 6s, you get the chance at level 7. So, what are the level 7 treasures? There's 5 of them. There's Phoenix Feather, and we have the pictures of all of them up here. The first time your highest attack character dies, you summon it. So you summon a copy of it, just like any other spawn mechanic. The Mirror is when one of your starting characters in the front row dies. Only the front row. You summon a plane. That means one unupgraded and unbuffed. 1/1 copy of it. The Holy Grail says after your next brawl, gain more gold than you could ever spend. I think it's about 1,000 gold. There's no way to spend it, as far as I know. I actually haven't got in a practice game. It's possible if you do it in a practice game, you can actually spend it. Excalibur says all the characters in your shop are upgraded. And Fairy Queen's Wand is actually pretty interesting. It says all your characters have +5/+5, which is, interesting. It's powerful in itself. But it also says whoever gets first place in this game gets 100 bonus fairy dust. So it actually gives a out-of-game buff. Only to the person who wins the game, and you don't have to have it and win the game. Someone else could have it and win the game, but if you have it and don't win the game, you do not get the bonus. So it's whoever wins the game gets it, regardless of who had the Fairy Queen Wand. So I just wanted to go over those, and then I have a little bit of what they do, a little bit of strategy around them. So the Phoenix Feather was a level 6 treasure that I think in the most recent patch, which is about 0.59, 0.2, something along there, there's a bunch of different patches, it was upgraded to level 7. And it basically just says the first time your highest attack character dies, you summon it again. So obviously, it's just generically powerful. It basically means, your strongest character, roughly. It's not always, your highest attack doesn't always correlate to strongest, but it's usually going to be one of your stronger characters, will come back. So you're sort of just getting an 8th character that's pretty powerful. Also note, though, it counts as summoning something. It can be affected by something like Mimic or by the other treasure, and I think it's called like Replicator. It's a level 4 treasure, I believe, that when you summon something, get a copy. If you have a Berenstein and you do this, you can get it will be affected because it's a summon mechanic. This is just something that if you see it and you're not sure about the other treasures, definitely go for this. It might even be better to go for it in most situations. It's just so generically powerful. You can see here it works well with something like a Storm King. If you have one very large Storm King and a bunch of books, you get a second crack at that Storm King, which is often a lot of your stats on the board. A lot of times you have things that do effects and buff stuff, and help you scale. But then you have that Storm King that is your scaled character, and bringing that back means you have a lot of extra power. It also works sometimes with something like Echo Wood, and I'm not sure when the highest attack is actually calculated, like at what point in the round. So it is pretty interesting. I don't know if it has to be the highest attack at the time it is killed, if that's how it works. And it requires you to have an open slot. So there are some, edge cases I'm not aware of. But basically, it's just a very powerful ability. It's probably, it's more powerful than most of the sixes, I'd say. It, doesn't give you a lot of scaling, but it does scale with the power of your character. So as your characters get larger, the power of this scales with that, because if you have a 200 Storm King, bring that is an extra 200 to its stats. If it gets to a 300, it's that much. If your biggest is only a 50, that's what this feather is giving you. Mirror Mirror is probably my favorite one because I think it's the most fun. It brings back your front row, brings back 1/1 copies of themselves when they die. So what is that great with? A lot of times it's last breath abilities. It's really great with last breath abilities, like Book, because those go off no matter what the size of the character is. It goes off with things that don't care as much about their stats as they do about the text on the card. It's also very good with something like Cupid or Medusa, because Cupid having one attack doesn't matter much, because the idea of Cupid is to get their characters to attack each other. Medusa likewise. The point is for Medusa to attack in and let the characters attack each other. Let the character get turned to stone, and that's the entire point of Medusa. It's also great with some of the spawners. However, note that because your front row is going to be continuously full, spawners that spawn multiple things may not have a lot of room. And it only affects the front row, so sometimes with something like a Pumpkin King, you'd want to put it in back to make sure it has room, but it won't get the benefit of this effect. However, note that the second way this works is, say you have a monster book in front, it comes back, gets killed again. That means 2 characters have died for your Pumpkin King, to count for spawns later. It also means if you have something like an Evil Queen, 2 things will have died. So you get extra value out of just the 1/1 copies, by virtue of them still having all their characteristics except their stats. So it's great for things that care about things being summoned, things dying, last breaths triggering, anything along those lines, anything but stats. It also works well in some cases if you have, buffs, things that buff your entire board. It works well with, say, the, and I think it's actually just a plus 100 sword that gives the character in the first slot 100 attack. So if you summon a 1/1, it's a 101/1, which is usually going to trade with something. So you can get value that way as well. Next is Holy Grail. Holy Grail is a treasure that I don't like in practice. I think it's really cool in theory. If you think about it in theory, what it does is give you basically 1,000 gold, which is basically infinite in this game. I don't think I've ever been able to spend more than like 50 or 60. If you think about it in theory, what you'd be able to do is roll as many times. You're usually on level 6 at this point, and you'd be able to triple everything you can find. You want to replace this treasure piece. It only works on the next turn after you get it. After the next brawl. So you'll get it, you'll presumably get it in between a brawl. You'll have to go through a brawl, survive to the next turn, and then you can spend all the gold. So one thing to think about is it doesn't help you in the next brawl. It provides no combat stats. Second thing is you can't actually spend that much gold. I love the game so far, and I have a decent internet connection, but I do experience some lag just sometimes when I'm doing the rolls in general. And the animation playing out sometimes. There might be a way to turn that off. I haven't looked into it. Maybe I should. It only really comes up when I have an excessive amount of gold. So I'm not able to spend, doesn't work as well in practice as it would in theory. In theory, you could cycle through, grab all the level 6s you want, build basically a full comp, and maybe in practice mode you could even try that. Buy a full comp worth of 5s and 6s, get those treasures, replace the Grail. The gold doesn't go away if you replace it, because you're going to want to replace it because it doesn't do anything after the one turn. And then you have an extremely strong board and basically whatever treasures you could want, because you can pair as many, or you could triple as many things as possible. In practice, the lag and sort of APM concerns makes it a little bit tough, but it is interesting. And if you're someone who doesn't have trouble with the rolling very quickly and buying things very quickly, it could be a lot of fun. I think it's one of the weaker ones because it doesn't help in the next brawl, and because you're not really likely to get the full benefit of it. I mean, it is giving you like probably 50 or 60 gold in practice, which is a huge boon. Obviously, it's one turn only, so you really want to be able to replace it. But I haven't been able to make it work. I'd love to see someone have a really great game with it and show me if I'm missing something there. That'd be interesting to see. Excalibur, I think, is one of the weaker ones because what it does is make all the characters in your shop upgraded. Obviously, this sounds very strong, right? Upgraded characters are a big goal. What you have to think about, though, is it doesn't let you get any more treasures. So you're stuck with a treasure that basically gives you no combat stats. It does make the characters you buy, so it makes them both easier to find and cheaper. Because to buy an upgraded 6-drop only costs 6, to upgrade a 6-drop by buying 3 costs 18. So you have more chances to roll and buy spells and do things like that. So in that way it seems very powerful. However, not being able to get any more treasures means that once you get this, unless you're very happy with the treasures you have, including this one, which will provide no combat abilities, then you can't improve that situation very easily. So that's one thing to consider. You could, of course, improve it if you had, say, a Lancelot on board and were able to level it up. You could then replace this. And I'm not sure if you can still buy... when all your characters upgrade, I'm not sure if you can still buy an upgraded quest character. I haven't seen that happen, but it's possible that it works that way. You'd have to check. So, in my experience, this one hasn't been as impressive. I can imagine if you... It sort of has some tension, because if you get it early, buying a lot of upgraded characters is amazing. Some characters upgrade very well also. Something like a Good Boy, it doubles its power and toughness, or attack and health I think they call it in this game, but also the ability means it gives double its stats. So that's a huge multiplicative, its powers, its stat buff and its ability buff, multiply each other. Something like Cupid, for instance, doesn't upgrade well because it just increases its stats. Something like Berenstein upgrades very well, Lordy upgrades very well. I could imagine just if you have like a dwarf comp, like, if you found a Berenstein or Lordy, and then you want to hard pivot to a new comp, I could see this being good because you can grab, you grab your Lordy and then you try to upgrade a few more. You want to get all dwarfs, but your priority is just buying as many dwarfs as possible, not being able to upgrade them. Or you just want to get, if you're playing Berenstein, a lot of times if you have multiple baby bears, you're not really looking to upgrade them. But if just buying all upgraded ones are actually even more powerful, so you could do something along those lines. I think it might be useful to pivot to a new ability, but I haven't been able to find a situation where I thought it was really great, especially because the bar for level 7s is so high, because a few of them are very powerful. And finally, we just have the Fairy Queen Wand. I think it's just generically powerful. It's a little bit boring, once you get to this one. You're like, oh, well, the other ones have pretty unique abilities. I'd love to see this one have something interesting. It's just +5/+5, which is very strong. And it's +5/+5 to not just your starting characters, but all characters. So, it's great with things that spawn, Baby Bear, Pumpkin King. It's also great with, something like a Good Boy, which, benefits, again, we just talked about, benefit from the stats, because it spread it around as well, so stats are more meaningful on it. The +5/+5 will fall off as the game gets longer. If you get this very early, when everything's, say, 20/20 health on average, 5/5 is a huge boon. If you get it when people have 200 attack characters, the 5/5 looks a little lackluster. So that's something to think about as well. It's also very cool that you get 100 bonus fairy dust. I'm still playing free to play, so I don't have all the heroes. I think I've purchased 5 so far. So extra fairy dust is really cool. I've definitely won some games with this, and I've had some games with my. So it also works if your opponent gets it. You'll get the fairy dust later on. So that's really cool if you win. It only works if you win. It works for whoever wins, but only if you win. So I think this one is, if you're just not sure what to get, you can grab this one. It will provide a very strong buff. If you think about other spells that provide static buffs, this one is definitely up there. But if you think of something like, even like Ivory Owl, which gives 2/2 every round, after 3 rounds, that one is given more stats. However, that doesn't work as well with spawners or if you want to switch things in and out. This provides a lot of generic power, but it doesn't scale super well. The one that doubles the attack of your front row scales better and probably provides more stats in terms of numbers overall as your characters scale. So there are things to think about. This is, if you weren't happy with the other ones, if you didn't want Excalibur and you didn't want, Mirror Mirror didn't really fit your comp at all, and you saw this one, I think it's reasonable to buy. Or if you don't want Holy Grail because you're not sure if you can cycle fast enough, I think it's worth grabbing this. You'll never, be too upset with just a raw stat buff. It doesn't create comps in the same way as some other things do. For instance, the power, I think it's a level 5 treasure, that lets your Slay characters attack twice. You might be in a situation where you say, wow, attacking twice is so powerful given, I'm playing Sad Dracula or something and all my front row has Slay. I actually don't want to replace that with this 5/5. It's unlikely that you have 3 treasures that are better than this, but it's possible that when you get this level 7 treasure, it won't be your best treasure, and that's pretty, that doesn't feel super exciting when you get a level 7. So that's just a basic overview of the level 7s. I hope this was a little more clear compared to the other video that was just sort of incidentally talking about them, and I hope anybody who's looking for information about them finds this a little bit helpful. There might be more that are added. There might even be some that I haven't seen. This was all the ones that I've seen and that I could find that other people have seen in their content and videos. But if there are other ones, I will add it. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope this different type of video isn't too much of a letdown to people who usually like watching gameplay, but I wanted to provide this for the people looking for it. Thank you so much.